Hi, Raphael.
Yep.
I just noticed my name was spelled wrong. It's Kevin Yarde.
Okay, I'll get them to make that change right away, Kevin.
The last name is spelled wrong. Should be an E on the end. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. Much appreciated, and apologies.
That's okay. I wouldn't be the first.
Yeah, I think when we met at the flag raising, I thought I had it right. Yeah, with the E at the end, but I guess we'll wait and see what's the next steps here.
That's okay. It's Bayesian. Yarde, so.
All right.
The E is silent. Yeah.
Okay, Farhan, Bini, are we good to go?
I would say yes, you can go ahead and start. We still have some officials from the government that will join, and I guess they will join during their time. So I would suggest.
Okay. Yeah, just in respect to who started right here on time, let's go. So, shall I take over here?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Raphael Fernandes, and it is with great pleasure that I extend a very warm welcome to each and every one of you to the online conference in order for Active Living and Climate Action Festival 2020. Thank you for your respecting the rich diversity of our honored guest here today. What we would like to do is, if I could maybe kindly request you to stand wherever you are as we present the land acknowledgement first and then the national anthem. So thanks for your time and patience, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to start by acknowledging the land on which we stand. Each of you participating in this event today are likely located on the traditional territories of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples across this country and perhaps beyond. So let's just take a moment to please reflect on this and to offer gratitude as visitors and guests. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please stay standing as we play the national anthem. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Much appreciate your time and your attention. Ladies and gentlemen, the presentations will be on active sports, health and fitness, diet and nutrition, lifestyle and wellness. Ladies and gentlemen, please may I have the honor to present to you the president of the Heart Lake Run, Mr. Ephraim Mwaura.
Good morning, everyone. First of all is to welcome you to this edition, the morning session of the Active Living and Climate Action Festival. I must say that as a president of Hartley Run, I'm very pleased to have a very special guest today, our chief guest, Mayor Patrick Brown, who is here with us. And we also have various other leaders who are with us, political leaders. We have very good panelists who've joined us as well. And we have very able team that has put this event together. I want to acknowledge all of you. As I start off, first of all, is just to highlight a bit about Hartley Run, and then we'll be able to move from there. You could allow me to share my screen. So I'll just give you a background information about the Active Living and Climate Action Festival. And as I speak about the event, Hartley Run is basically the organization. It's a nonprofit organization that has taken charge of organizing this event. This is our second edition. We had our first event last year alongside the Hartley Run walk, which was actually a plugging walkathon, walking as you collect the litter. So, and basically Hartley Run is an incorporated nonprofit, and we seek to address most critical sustainable development challenges through local solutions and initiatives like sports. So some of the key challenges we focus on in support of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or what we call global goals, are number 1, zero hunger, food security. That is goal number 2 on United Nations chart of goals. Then we have good health and well-being, which is goal number 3. We have life on land, which is basically about the environment conservation, and climate action. So that's what informs why Hartley Run was set up. And we are based here in Brampton. This is our head office. But what we are doing actually is supposed to resonate across the country. So Brampton is the heart, and we are very happy to be in this city. It's a city that we really love, and we have a lot of support from the government and various other agencies, the corporate sector, and the community. So Hartley Run is also a member of Ontario Environment Network and Brampton Board of Trade. So talking of the Sustainable Development Goals, as you know, United Nations came up with SDGs or global goals back when we were turning into the new millennium. And that's when we were calling them Millennium Development Goals. So over the 15 years, there are a lot of achievements. And in 2015, we transitioned to Sustainable Development Goals. And there are actually 17 goals. And out of those goals, Hartley Run picked 4 of them. So I'll just highlight the ones that we're focusing on. Number 1 is a zero hunger. That's the goal number 2. And out of that, we have what we call the food security program within Hartley Run. So we are already implementing that program. And these programs, actually, we have already some activities happening on the ground. So over the last 3 years, we've been running a community garden, which was actually donated by Hartley United Church. And the garden itself was a collaboration of the church and the Peel paramedics. So they actually donated a piece of land that we've been actually cultivating and donating the food to the community within the Hartley area. So there are food cupboards that we support, and mainly the Hartley Community Food Cupboard. And one of the things we could say is that the city has been very, very supportive over the years with Councillor Doug Whelans under the backyard program, gardening program. So we've got a lot of resources and also support when you're planting all the planting seasons. And we'd like to thank the city for that. So you can see some of the member volunteers who've been at the garden, and we've been actually doing very good harvest. Like this year, we had a very bumper harvest, which we donated to the food cupboard. Another program we focus on is active living, and this is informed by goal number 3, which is good health and well-being. This is also part of the Sustainable Development Goals. And basically, what is active living? That's why we have the Active Living and Climate Action Expo Festival. So active living is a way of life that integrates physical activity into our everyday routines, so such as walking to the store or biking to work. It's generally a combination of physical activity and recreation activities aimed at the general public to encourage healthier lifestyle. And why is it very important? So it is important so that you can stay healthy. Staying active helps you to reduce risk of conditions like heart disease, diabetes, and stroke. Exercise has also been linked to improved mental health and cognitive function. So these are some of the examples of active living. So like walking, yoga, dancing, going for shopping, housework, gardening, cycling, hiking, even volunteer activities, swimming, strength training, getting out to visit others, of course, not during the COVID time, playing with grandchildren and golfing. So these are just some of the examples of active living. And there are various benefits we derive from active living through regular physical activity. And there's continued independent living, better physical and mental health, improved quality of life, more energy, you actually move with fewer aches and pains. You get a better posture and balance, improved self-esteem, weight maintenance, strong muscles and bones, relaxation, and reduced stress. These are just some of the examples of the benefits you derive from that. So the other program we have is environment conservation. And this is informed by the goal number 15, which is life on land. So we've been doing a number of interventions on this. We've worked with various agencies over the last 2 years. 2019, we did quite a lot of work, environment cleanup. Tree planting, we've been working very closely with the TRCA and the City of Brampton, Parks and Recreation. Then we've also been advocating for single-use plastic ban. And then, of course, through this kind of channels like what we have today, is environment conservation education program. The other goal that we're very focused on and informs our other program, climate action, is a goal number 13. And in that, of course, through the same kind of environment conservation efforts and collaborating with various stakeholders through advocacy and information dissemination on climate change adaptation and mitigation, we've been able to undertake this program. So this year we had scheduled to have a Hartlick run, 3K and 5K, run and walk. That was back in June, but it was canceled because of COVID. But you expect to have a similar event next year. So basically, that's just generally a background of what we actually plan to do this year. And we have a lot we're gonna do once we manage to overcome COVID-19. I just wanna say thank you very much. I wanna welcome all the panelists, our speakers, and of course, our chief guest who is coming next to speak to us, His Worship the Mayor Patrick Brown. Welcome very much. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for Ephraim, our president here. Has done a great job, great information, great presentation. Thank you, Ephraim, much appreciated. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome His Worship Patrick Brown, Mayor of the City of Brampton.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you today. I would note Councillor Doug Woolens asked me to send his regrets. He's in an area that doesn't have proper cell phone reception, but he's a big fan of Ephraim's work and asked me to send along his best. Ephraim, I want to thank you on behalf of the City of Brampton. You've been such a crusader for active living, for environmental responsibility, and the Heart Lake Run has been a symbol of that, of our collective energy to do better. And I really believe this is something that is in our DNA in Brampton. You know, former Premier Bill Davis, when he was Premier of Ontario, he created the Ministry of the Environment. It didn't even exist before. They didn't even think about the notion of environmental responsibility before we had his time in office. And the fact that that Brampton resident helped carve the path for the environmental initiatives we have today, I think adds a special emphasis to why this is important to us as Bramptonians. You know, I've got a young son at home and another one on the way. And when I think of the environment, I think of them. I think of the legacy that we're going to leave for them. When I think of climate change, I think what type of world do we want to pass on to them? You know, there's a responsibility that every parent has, is to make sure that what you leave to your children is in better shape than you inherited it. And the lakes, the land, the beauty of our surroundings, that's one of God's greatest gifts. And I think we all need to do our part. And we have a city council, Ephraim, that I want you to know honors your efforts on environment and active living. We are one of the first municipalities to lobby for the ban on single-use plastics. I want to thank the federal government for taking that important leadership position. We have actively begun efforts to clean up our local water bodies. We have put in place the most aggressive climate change goals in the GTA in terms of emission reductions. And we're part of the global covenant of mayors committed to combating climate change. And both Councillor Rowena Santos and Doug Willans have represented the city of Brampton at some of those collective efforts. And just last week, in partnership with the David Suzuki Foundation and Bike Brampton, we led an advocacy charge to change transit building. The Williams Parkway project was going to be another big freeway, and we changed it to incorporate active transportation for walking, for running, for cycling. And people said, why would you change a key road project? And our response was, if we keep doing things the same way, we're going to get the same results. And right now, the result we have, unfortunately, is real climate challenges, and we have active living challenges. And I love how you've incorporated both together, because they are linked. And I looked at active living. We have obesity rates that are rising. We have major cardiac issues, particularly in Peel region, where we have some of the highest rates of cardiac problems. Just ask anyone that works at the hospital. And so part of this is diet, but part of this is also the way we live our lives, and making sure we incorporate active living into how we build our city. So when I heard the themes of this project, Ephraim, I was excited because it really spoke to what I view as important for our city. And you have our wholehearted support. I hope you have a really encouraging dialogue today. And if you come up with suggestions or ideas of how we can better serve our city, please let us know. I've always been a big believer that there's no monopoly on a good idea. And if it's just a few of us at City Hall scratching our heads and thinking of ways that we can combat climate change and active living, it's not going to be as successful if we have hundreds or thousands of people doing the same thing. And so I hope that in some of your conversations, you got some great suggestions for us. And I have to say, I know it's different this year not having an in-person Heart Lake run, but I know that we're going to get through COVID-19 and we're going to be able to come together again in a similar fashion where we have hundreds of people participate in this run, where it really is a momentum event. I say momentum event because it builds goodwill towards these causes. It shows our collective buy-in for how this is so important. So Ephraim, keep up the great work and know that you've got allies at City Hall ready to work with you to make sure we leave a healthy city for future generations.
Much appreciated. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause again for His Worship Patrick Brown, Mayor of the City of Brampton. Thank you so much for your great direction and your official feedback today. We will definitely be in touch. I think we had a quick question though to find out if, is the city to have a cleanup in the neighborhood of Brampton? Will that be a week dedicated to that?
Yeah, so a lot of this is being dictated by public health right now. For every event we want to do, we have public health approve it. And so I know the neighborhood cleanups are something that are important. When we're in the gray zone, they're probably not permitted, but as soon as we get out of the gray zone, they're probably going to be permitted again. We're in this unusual environment right now where there's such caution over escalating COVID numbers that any official city event, we're trusting the guidance of public health to make sure we don't do anything that contributes to spread. And we are right now in a framework where it's asking people not to have any interactions, even with their neighbors, out of concern that the hospital is already at capacity.
Definitely. Thanks again for that perfect direction, Dave. Thanks again, Your Worship. Patrick Brown, Mayor of the City of Brampton. Thanks for your time.
My pleasure.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Honourable Member of Parliament for Brampton North, Sahota.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me a part of today's event. Thank you to Ephraim, who has helped really this movement. I know that in my riding, and especially in the area of Heart Lake in my riding, there's some fantastic community working hard on climate change issues, and I had met a lot of the different organizations. But ever since meeting Ephraim, I saw that desire to really bring all people together underneath this umbrella and this passion for climate change and sustainability, and of course food. And last year's, I can't believe it was just last year, it feels like even longer ago, but I learned what plogging was for the first time ever. And it was a very enjoyable event with bringing together many different services in the community and being able to understand all of the wonderful things that are offered in Brampton. And of course, what more people have a desire to do. And so I bring greetings from the federal government, the government of Canada, and I wanted to just inform you about a few different initiatives that are going on at the federal level. Of course, just a couple of weeks back, there was legislation tabled in the House of Commons, which enshrines our carbon pollution targets into law. But meeting targets, of course, is not, this is the first step. And I know that many different climate action organizations and we ourselves do not think this is the end all be all. Of course, we have enshrined them into law, or we're working on the process of making sure that it is the law of Canada, that any government today or governments in the future will make sure that we're meeting our targets appropriately. And so, but there is much more to do. So that is not, you know, our only goal. But in order to reach those climate targets, there's many things we're going to have to do. We're still very Chrystia Freeland in the fall economic statement has reiterated again that we are still very committed to our 200 billion tree planting initiative program. And I know that this organization is also very interested in the tree planting program. So please let me know. I'm very eager to help on that front as to how we can do more in Brampton. There's many organizations that have been able to take advantage of dollars in order to pursue their initiatives in tree planting. And so this is an organization that could also do so. We also invested in the federal economics, fall economic statement that was just made earlier this week on Monday. There are promises in there that 2.6 billion to help Canadians make their homes more energy efficient. This is also something important that has to be promoted and has to be encouraged through government so that people can take that next step. We can have more energy efficient homes. We're also putting 287 million into zero emission vehicles. So I think that is very important as well, and 150 million to ensure that charging stations are accessible. There was a recent announcement by our government for additional charging stations that have gone up in the city of Brampton as well. So we were happy to fund those. And we know that even more infrastructure is needed so that people can move away from their gas vehicles and into energy efficient electric vehicles. So without those initiatives, of course, Mr. Mayor Patrick Brown is mentioning, let's not forget the electric buses. That's a project that is near and dear to my heart and a very exciting one. The federal government was the only level of government that invested into the city's electric program, bus program as well. And that was an announcement made, it was last year as well. So we're really hoping that this pilot, that's one of a kind, only a few cities around the world are doing it. And we hope that this becomes the catalyst that will make sure that our whole fleet of buses in Brampton become electric. I think that will make a big difference. Also, I wanted to mention that 7.3 million is being put in to a sustainable finance Action Council to enhance climate disclosures and to help investors identify how low carbon investment opportunities are available. A lot of times organizations do have difficulty figuring out what areas where they can get, how they can get their hands on these further investments. So there's much more in the full economic statement about sorry, I'm trying to read some of these. I feel the tipping point is here for electric vehicles.
All electric vehicles.
Yes, absolutely. I think there's a lot of interest in that. So the investments have to be made, and really setting targets without making the proper investments in clean energy and electric energy is futile, because without that, then we really won't get there. And so I think there's a combination of things that need to be done. And I'm happy to discuss with any of the various organizations that want to talk about what more can be done in the areas of climate action. After all, I am a mother. I am a resident of Brampton for an extremely long time. I grew up in the city, and I do really care and am very proud to be a Canadian and want us to be leading on this front. And I do think that we can lead. I think we have a partner again in the United States as well, so that we can lead the charge on these initiatives. There's many countries around the world that are desiring this type of change. They are seeing the effects of climate action on their food resources, on the health of people, on water sustainability and water sources. And so it's crucially important that we move now. We can't work on this soon enough. So thank you for inviting me today, Ephraim, and I look forward to continuing being a partner in whichever way I can.
Much appreciated, Ruby. Got a quick question here. Define making the homes energy efficient. What does it entail?
Well, that is a good question. I'm really not the expert in that, but I think it will entail whether it's I guess, energy escaping your home, energy not being used in an efficient way to heat your homes, and lighting and solar. So there are a lot of other ways that you can make your home more energy efficient. And so the rollout on that project will have all the specific ways that you can be funded and that you would be helped in making those changes.
Right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, much appreciate the presentation from the Honourable Member of Parliament for Brampton North, Ruby Sahota. Thanks again for your time, and a round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Honourable Member of Provincial Parliament for Brampton North, Mr. Kevin Yarde.
Thank you, everyone. And I want to thank Ephraim for inviting me here today. I wish we were seeing each other in person, but obviously with COVID-19, this is the new norm. Remember last year with the run as well. These are amazing initiatives that Ephraim's been doing, and he's a true champion. And I want to thank you for everything you're doing in the community. Now, I want to thank Ruby as well as Mayor Patrick Brown for their thoughts and their contributions as well. Now, I just want to tell you a little bit more about what we're doing on the provincial level. You heard the federal level with Ruby and the municipal with the mayor. As the official opposition, of course, we continue to push the government to bring forth some of these initiatives. But I'm hearing all the time in my office from a lot of concerned residents who not only call, but who've knocked on the door, and they're worried. They're worried about the future, especially young people. They didn't create the climate crisis, we did. And they're going to be inheriting the consequences. So what we are doing now is continuing to push to make sure that we don't run out of time to avoid the most catastrophic effects of the climate crisis. In Ontario, we are already feeling the effects of the climate crisis with an increase in the frequency and severity of extreme weather events. We can only look to last year with the flooding in the Ottawa Valley and other areas across the country. The fires out west, of course, we all remember the fires in northern parts of Alberta, stifling heat waves as well, and a surge in ticks and Lyme disease, which is really a big issue down in the Niagara region, which has come to the front of news lately. So all these are issues that are being affected because of climate and climate change. So as the climate worsens, these challenges are going to be become even more severe. So that's why I'm glad that we're having these discussions today. So we can't afford to ignore the climate crisis, and we're already seeing some of those economic and environmental and social costs which are being affected because of the climate change. So what we need to do is reduce emissions. That's, I mean, we say it all the time, we need to reduce emissions, and that will reduce the costs and reduce the severity of the damage to our economy and our environment, as well as our human health. We need to build bold action to meet the scale and urgency of the climate crisis in Ontario. And that's what we've been doing in Ontario. We've been working towards a Green New Deal with the New Democratic Party. I'll tell you a little bit more about that as well. So Canada, unfortunately, is a top 10 global emitter. Surprised to hear, but we are. And Ontario is the country's most populous province. Canada's ability to meet its global commitments hinges on what Ontario does or doesn't do to address the climate crisis. And as we all know, what Ontario does is very important. So Ontarians, especially young Ontarians, are counting on their leaders like myself and Ruby and Mayor Patrick Brown to address this climate crisis. And that's why I'm committed to delivering a little bit more in terms of what's happening out there. So let me tell you a little bit about our Green New Deal for Ontario. It's reducing Ontario's greenhouse gas emissions by at least 50% below the 2005 levels by 2030. And that's achieving net zero emissions by 2050. Now, these are targets consistent with the most ambitious aspects of the Paris Agreement, which we all know about, with the aim of limiting the global temperature increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Our emissions targets are ambitious, obviously, but absolutely necessary. And they're not just aspirations, these are firm commitments. So with technological innovation, strategic investments, well-crafted regulations, and hard work and ingenuity, I believe we can achieve these goals. So it's time for us to roll up our sleeves and get to work. And we're fighting not just for ourselves, but for the next generations to come. And they deserve nothing less. They deserve to live in a country, live in a world free of toxins, free of floods, free of heat waves, and to live a normal life in a normal society. So once again, I want to thank you, Ephraim. I want to thank all the panelists. I want to thank Ruby. I want to thank the Honorable Mayor for taking time out to discuss this eye on not just Heart Lake, but on Ontario in terms of finding global initiatives and fighting climate change. So I'm glad to be here, and I appreciate everyone joining us, and everyone stay safe. And I'm going to throw it back to Raphael.
Right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, round of applause for the Honourable Member of Provincial Parliament for Brampton North, Kevin Yarde. Much appreciate that direction. Very well, very effective, and thanks again for your time. I don't see any questions directly for you right now. May I request our guest to share your questions in the chat directed to the panelists, and there will be a survey to be completed at the end of the event. Okay, so really appreciate that. Please help me welcome the Honorable Regional Councillor, Brampton City Council, Michael Paleschi. Do we have Michael signed in yet?
I'm not sure that I see him yet.
Okay, so we could hold off on that, but we have apologies for the Honourable Councillor for the City of Brampton, Ward 2 and 6, Doug Willens. We'll take his apologies with respect and look forward to seeing him at the next event. And if you do see Michael come in, then we can always bring him in for the next presentation. So ladies and gentlemen, really appreciate your time, your patience, your attention. As Director for Sports and Recreation, Kenyan Canadian Association, we had an amazing event scheduled pre-COVID-19, but we will definitely coordinate and present post-COVID-19. And I will give you a couple of highlights of who we are at KCA. And my technical crew have shared the screen, so this is who we are. I won't read the whole thing because that might bore you, but I'll give you a couple of minutes to read it. It's basically the Canadian Association. KCA is a federal not-for-profit organization that seeks to address the issue affecting marginalized Canadians, especially those of Kenyan origin, the Black communities, and visible minorities, while assisting newcomers to settle and make positive contribution in the society as they endeavor to achieve the goals. As you know, KCA also focuses on implementing programs and specifically offering services to newcomers, low-income families, visible minorities, and socially excluded groups residing in Canada to improve their personal well-being and social economic status. KCA aims to work collaboratively with organizations and stakeholders, both locally and internationally. Many were ready for the next slide. Here are the programs that we take care of: women and gender affairs, health, newcomers and settlement, sports and recreation, social economic empowerment, youth outreach, research, education and careers, seniors outreach as well. Here we have the board of directors, the very effective, powerful board of directors run by the humble and most effective personality. We have Mr. Ephraim Waura as the president. We got Catherine Matimo, Director of Newcomers and Settlement, Sanjeet Kaur, Director of Women and Gender Affairs. You got myself, yours truly, Director of Sports and Recreation, Fatma Nadir, Director of Social Economic Empowerment, Maureen Waura, she is Director of Youth Outreach, Dr. Dionisio Nyaga, he is the Director for Research, Education and Careers, Dr. Charles Wambula, Director of Health, and Farin Kiver, Director of Communications. We've got the Council and Regional Directors, Samuel Kiragu, Regional Chair, Swale Abdallah, he is the Regional Chair as well, Farin Kiver, GTA West Regional Chair, and Kevin Gatoto, he is our Regional Chair, GTA Central. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as Director for Sports and Recreation, I've got a couple of things to talk about on, like I said before, we had a pretty amazing schedule pre-COVID, but we will make sure we get to it post-COVID. We had in May, the Karasaga Multicultural Festival. In June, we had the Active Living Climate Action Festival. In June again, we were having the Hat Lake Run, the 3K, 5K walk, 1K Kids Dash, and of course, the most effective Carabram Multicultural Festival as well. But we sure look forward to building new and stronger relationships with a diverse community as we respect the bond and camaraderie. Ladies and gentlemen, may I take the liberty to take you on my Olympic journey. I was selected to represent the Kenya national team at 4 Olympics. This was the field hockey national team back in Kenya, Montreal 76, Moscow 1980, Los Angeles 1984, and Seoul 1988. But due to the international political technicalities, I only competed in Los Angeles 1984, as Montreal was the African boycott, Moscow was the American boycott, and Seoul, I was immigrating to Canada with my wife, Allison, my daughter, Stacy, and my son, Lance. But I had the most inspiring opportunity as an ambassador of the Kenya national team, understanding the golden rules of the sport: love, discipline, and respect, especially the diversity of sportsmanship, leadership, and camaraderie, together with the Olympic values of excellence, integrity, respect, friendship, solidarity, and inspiration. I was honored by the WOA, which is the World Olympians Association, with an OLY certificate that has granted me use of the title and post-nominal letters, OLY, right after my name. the OLY certificate to signify my ongoing role in society as an Olympian living and promoting the Olympic values. This is with gratitude and appreciation to the Secretary General of the KOA, Kenyan Olympic Association, Mr. Schwab Adam, who has coordinated for all the Kenyan Olympians and for all our fallen Olympians and their families to be honored. As a qualified FIH coach, Federation of International Hockey, I have volunteered my time and experience with the Field Hockey Canada, Field Hockey Ontario, and Pan American Hockey Federation. And every time the national team represented internationally, we were requested to visit the president at the State House in Nairobi. And he always made sure that he reminded us that we left as ambassadors of the country. So I took the liberty to spend 90 days in Kenya, giving back to the country as an ambassador, presenting coaching clinics around the country. And the most important one was coaching the kids from the slums on the weekends, as the Kenya hockey team invited them and presented them with uniforms, playing equipment, and most importantly, a warm meal. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That was just a quick highlight before we go to our next panel of presenters. Do we have Michael who has attended yet, or we still move on to the next? Minnie Farhan, any updates on Michael?
No, he hasn't come in yet. We can move
Okay.
forward.
Thanks. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Paula Felicia de Candia, Vice President, Ontario Homeopathic Medical Association. A quick brief on Paula. She's the Vice President of the Ontario Homeopathic Medical Association and is on the board of directors for the Executive Committee of the Ontario Homeopathic College and HDSF Canada. She has been in private practice for over 17 years, providing reflexology, live cell microscopy, body talk, and homeopathic medicine. A model, a ballerina at the National Ballet of Canada. We definitely have some celebrity with us. She's a dedicated single mother to 3 beautiful, healthy daughters, a Guinness World Record holder, participants signing simultaneously the same book with 126 authors, and an award-winning world-renowned book, Magnetic Entrepreneur, and an international best-selling author in the recent book, COVID-19 Lockdown. Welcome, Paula, take it over.
Thank you, Mr. Raphael Fernandes. Thank you all. I'm humbly honored to be here today among all of you. And I'm extremely excited to discuss the importance on nutrition and diet when it comes to your health. There is nothing left for me to say about myself, as Mr. Raphael Fernandes was kind enough to introduce me. So I'm gonna just start with the fact that before I go on into my discussion, I would like to start with a disclaimer, a small disclaimer that just to remind you all that I am not a medical doctor and I am not here to diagnose in any way or suggest that any of you will stop their prescription medication. Now, the information I'm about to discuss and share here with you today is only for research and educational purposes and is not intended to prescribe treatment. Now, my aim is to provide you with enough information to help you understand why nutrition and diet is anything but what most of us are taught to believe it is, and how we can use educated, informed choices to understand how our body works, and how we can provide it with the tools to stimulate the innate wisdom mechanism to stay healthy and repair itself, especially in times like today when we are faced with stress and all kinds of challenges. Now, at the end, I will provide you with a couple of tools which can be used right away in your daily life to see for yourself the power of eating healthy in just a few days, if you do keep up with what I will suggest. Now, for most of us, when we hear the word nutrition and diet, our thoughts lead us somehow to, most often than not, to weight loss. Now, nutrition is more than managing weight. In fact, the benefits of proper nutrition can lead to a healthier life with less need for prescription medication, with less pain and discomfort, even as we age, and better sleep, uplifted mood and spirits, and it really leads to a happier and more enjoyable life. There are so many people out there who have reversed diabetes, just changing their eating habits, or have managed mental health with proper whole food and individualized nutritional protocols. I know it's very hard nowadays. In fact, it could become even frustrating when you hear, take this vitamin, take these minerals, 1 pill a day will keep the doctor away. Now, I would say yes and no to all these advices because you see, we are all unique and we have what is referred to as biochemical individuality. And yes, we all need the same food factors such as proteins, fats, minerals, fiber, but not all of us need all these in the same proportion or from the same sources. We are born with what is known as an inborn metabolic weakness. Therefore, our ability to absorb, to digest, to assimilate these nutrients that we ingest is very different from one person to another. And some of us have even unusual high need for one versus the other. Hippocrates said it very well a while back. Once, and I quote, once men meet, I believe was referred to food, it's another's men poison. Now, I personally cannot believe that this philosophy of one size fits all, hence 1 pill per day will take care of all your nutritional needs. I am sure you have even seen in all the supplement stores or even supermarkets, take this, it's for men over 50, for women over 50, 1 pill a day, you know, and even though these particular, let's say, supplements for 1 pill a day for men over 50 or women over 50 or over 40, over 60, whichever way the advertise is for some people we find that it works, but yet for others it doesn't. Our culture itself emphasizes most often conflicting dietary beliefs. For example, let's say some say a high protein, a low carbohydrates diet is the best way to go. Others say low protein with high complex carbohydrates is the best way to go. Some recommend that 30% of total calories comes from fats and oils. Others disagree and say only 10% should. Let's say some will say that poultry and fish is the healthiest, it's a lot healthier than red meat diets. Yet others eliminate all animal products and consume only plant-based foods. Even those who choose to be vegetarian, I find they have various differences. Some say combine or prefer to combine grains and seeds with legumes to increase their protein values. Others disagree with this. Some use mainly cooked grains, some prefer raw foods. You see, many people who promote any specific particular diet program insists often that their way works best and is the only way to be healthy. Now, the truth is, what they are really saying is that this worked for them very well. However, whether it will work for you or for me or for others, it's uncertain. There are some nutritional theories who indeed recognizes the difference among certain groups of individuals. And there is even a book out there called Eat Right for Your Blood Type. I'm sure many of you have heard about this book or it's familiar with this concept. What I have learned over the years in my practice is that what is the best approach for any particular individual will not be found in a textbook. Your own body has the answer. That is why I personally spent over 15 years studying live cell microscopy. And along with a specific questionnaire and one drop of blood from one fingertip, I can determine your unique nutritional status. Therefore, the reliable way to find out what specifically can be of benefit to you. We can look at extra assess nutritional deficiencies and excesses like vitamins and minerals and proteins and many, many other factors. Now, what is fascinating is that through this microscopy, it's very helpful in finding subclinical conditions that do not show up on conventional laboratory tests. And just to give an example, long before you get diagnosed, the body gives you a subtle indication that things may not be working as well as they used to. Yet, we tend to ignore those subtle signs because they are not debilitating. And we think, oh, this is normal. It's part of aging. It's part of aging process, you know. Oh, welcome to 40, welcome to 60, you know. And at this stage, even the medical tests appear to be normal. Yet, you do not feel 100%. You do not feel as you used to feel. Your energy may be lower than normal. You're getting mild headaches or pains and aches here and there. Your thinking may even appear to be fuzzy. Your fingernails may break. Your skin ends up dry. And the list goes on. All of these signs can relate to nutritional imbalances. Researchers have noted that certain changes take place in the body when it gets too much or too little of any given nutrient. What I like about this microscopy particularly is that it provides valuable information and enables one to take corrective action before little problems end up becoming bigger problems. And the beauty of it is that it can be used by itself or in addition with other forms of medical or nutritional testing as well. Now, unfortunately, there aren't actually any laboratory tests that determine nutritional status. Blood tests, for example, measure many, many things, but they cannot tell the whole story because you see, our blood constantly strives to maintain a state of balance. And it does this even at the expense of our tissues in the body. Let me give you a couple of examples. For example, blood calcium levels may be normal even during osteoporosis. The blood needs calcium so badly that it just takes it from the bones, but it does not show in the blood as being deficient. A vitamin B12, for example, can show in the blood as a misleading high level of folic acid. In conclusion, it's found that laboratory tests for nutritional status produces misleading accuracy. The results may be precise, but irrelevant. Our Canadian doctor, David Rowland, who was Canada's first nutritional consultant and whose questionnaire I've been using for 15 years, said it very well, and I quote this time: nutritional symptomatology is an approximate yet reliable method of measurement. When it comes to health, it is far better to be approximately right than precisely wrong. Now, I hope that with this basic introduction, you now understand why looking for a professional when it comes to your health is important. As I promised, I will leave you with one thing to remember and implement in your daily basis in order to protect and maintain your health. I'm going now to talk about one thing that you eat every day in one way, form or another. And the reason I want to talk about this common thing is because it's so common and so addicting that we don't pay attention, yet is the number one or one of the top that wreak havocs our health right and left and down and up. And whichever we want to look at it, we always find excuses to use it and to consume it. And I'm talking about sugar. Sugar comes in a lot of varieties of forms and with a variety of names. Let me name few. We have white sugar, we have brown sugar, We have raw sugar, maple sugar, coconut sugar, maple syrup, corn syrup, honey, molasses, sucrose, glucose, dextrose, fructose, lactose. You got the idea, right? Guess what? All the grains that we eat and all those that we call carbs are nothing else but sugar. Now, all these carbs, what I mean by this is they are converted in the body as glucose. And we like it because it goes into our system very slow, and it gives us this actually feeling of it works in our brain such that it stimulates our hormones, the feel well hormones. So we feel good eating it. And it gives us the sensation of staying full for a longer time. And also it gives us energy. Now, glucose is the sugar that comes from pasta, from white rice, from potatoes, from sugar. Good thing about glucose is that our liver, if it's not compromised and it's functioning well, somehow this glucose manages to bypass and it gets distributed to other parts of the body, and that gives us energy, which is wonderful. Now, when it comes to fructose, however, this fructose does not bypass the liver. It gets stored there and it gets deposited as fat. And here we're talking about sweetened beverages such as Coca-Cola, soda, energy drinks, sports drinks. There is a growing scientific evidence that is the most dangerous ways to consume sugar, this fructose. Sugar is found now in 74% of packaged foods sold in our supermarkets, including many savoring foods or items marketed as healthy. We tend to think that sugar is only added in desserts, in cakes or cookies, but that's not true. Now, it's found in, as I said earlier, even bread, in pasta sauces. They label them and promote them as healthy or natural. Even yogurt, believe it or not, now is full of sugar. In energy bars, ketchup, salad dressing, you name it, it's there. Because of the variety of all these names that sugar is labeled under, many of us get misled that we are eating healthy. But you see, sucrose, high fructose, corn syrup, barley malt, dextrose, and I can go on and on and on. Like, honestly, before I studied this, I myself was ingesting, okay? Now, I will encourage all of you to check out the Sugar Science website to find out a lot more information. Now, did you know also that too much fructose, how do you say it? Fructose can actually damage your liver, much like alcohol does? I didn't know until I studied it. This is supported by a growing scientific consensus. Now, if consumed in its natural form, most people can actually manage it without impeding in their health. However, in our society, manufacturers extract and concentrate the fructose from corn, from beets, and from sugarcane, removing the fiber, removing the nutrients in the process. So it's left bare and it's used on every food intake without the fiber. So that way, no fiber to slow it down, then the body cannot manage it. Studies actually show in the US that 30% of American adults and 13% of children suffer from non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Almost all added sugars contain high amounts of fructose. Now, what's unique about fructose? It's that it's not processed by the liver. It gets stored there. And this opens up the doors to cardiovascular risks, to diabetes. Because it's stored in the liver as a fat, now will increase the liver fat, and that eventually the liver will send it into the blood. And that's how it gets the level of triglycerides and cholesterol up in the sky, literally. Now, one study showed that when subjects consume 100 grams of either honey, fructose, glucose, or sucrose, which is the table sugar, the activity of the immune system cells decrease for 5 hours. Eating a diet full of added sugar, such as processed carbs, can lead to a lower energy level, headaches, inflammation, joint pain. Cutting sugar out of your diet may likely decrease inflammation, boost your energy levels, help you lose weight, and will improve your ability to focus as well. The human body was not designed to consume those type of foods and added sugars. We are built to consume foods from nature, in which the concentrated sugar content are very, very minimal. Now, don't be surprised if you stop eating sugar and at first you experience withdrawal and you may feel exhausted and irritated, because believe it or not, it's worse than alcohol. So if I was to leave you with one thing from today, I will encourage you, please read the labels. Try your best to not completely eliminate, but I'm saying limit the use of added sugar in the diet. And just remember that professionals are out there to guide you. And as I don't remember who said it, but said it well, it is more important to know the person who has the condition than it is to know the condition that the person has. So please take hold of your health. Read the labels and eliminate sugar. You will have a better life. Thank you all. I hope I was within the time frame that I've had.
Amazing, Paula. Ladies and gentlemen, Paula Felicia de Candia, Vice President, Ontario Homeopathic Medical Association. I think we got a question for you, Paula.
Sure.
Does adapting good eating habits reverse PCOS?
PCOS, absolutely. If honestly, throughout my over 17 years of practice, I realized that changing your eating habits, but not only, so here I come now with what we talked earlier. It's not just food, it's a lifestyle altogether. So it's important to create or build a system for you that it's also active. You build resilience and agility with strength exercises, with walking, with eating, with staying hydrated. So it's not just one aspect, but that particular aspect, which is the food intake, is the most important. Because nowadays we eat, believe it or not, majority of us, including myself at times, I eat for or based on emotional needs. I eat to feel good. We don't eat, we forget that food, food should be for us as adults particularly. Children is a different story because they're still growing. But for us, it's supposed to keep us nourished, supposed to keep us healthy. We don't want to grow anymore, except this way. Like if we continue eating, from throughout emotions just to feel good, just to stimulate those two hormones, dopamine and serotonin, feel good hormones. And there are many other ways we can do this. But what's interesting is that this particular ingredient, this sugar, this added sugar in our diet, it has become so addicting, right? So to answer the question, absolutely. I strongly believe that we can change our life 100% around by staying healthy, by implementing a healthy lifestyle, not just eating, but everything else is important. Mental health, emotional health, physical activity. Unfortunately, we humans also need social interactions. And during this pandemic, it's extremely challenging, but believe it or not, through the realms of energy, we can still connect. Even via Zoom right now, I look at you all and I feel connected to you. So even though we are forced to stay indoors for now, because we want to save lives, basically. We want to do what's right. We can still connect this way. We thank God for this new technology. So yeah, I hope I answered the question.
Definitely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for that amazing presentation. You definitely showcased and portrayed your expertise, and we really appreciate it. Thanks for being with us, Paula.
Thank you
Well,
so much for having me.
Pleasure and honor is all ours. Ladies and gentlemen, please may I take this opportunity to share my gratitude and appreciation to my brilliant team. The president, of course, Mr. Ephraim Wara, Farhan Kiber, Mini Karanja, Wanika Gandhi, who are taking care of all the technicalities behind the screens. And if you notice in the chat line, they said to please share your questions in the chat directed to the panelist, and please complete the survey during or at the end of the event if you think we're doing a great job. And I'm sure we are, thanks to the great team. And like I said, it's a team effort, it's a team success, and success is in the journey. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome David Laing, Chair, Bike Brampton. Welcome, David. I'm just going to do a quick introduction of yourself.
Yes.
I know you've got a lot to say, David, but thank you so much. Thanks for your bio. David Laing, he's an advocate for Brampton-based environmental initiatives to mitigate the effects of a changing climate. He's the chair of Bike Brampton, which is an advocacy group in support of active transportation choices for Brampton and Peel region. Past co-chair of the Brampton Environmental Advisory Committee, member of the City of Brampton's Task Force for the Community Energy and Emissions Reduction Program, and a member of Toronto and Region Conservation Authority Joint Watershed Coalition. David cycles thousands of kilometers each year. 600 kilometers from Ottawa to Brampton in 2017, and 1,000 kilometers along the shores of Lake Erie in 2018 and 2019. And as well, David Suzuki Foundation Alpha. You take it over, David.
Okay, thanks very much, Raphael. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to all of you this morning about some of my favorite topics. And so I'm going to actually turn off my, we'll see whether we can do this with both shared screen and with my face there. If not, I'm going to go to the PowerPoint presentation here. So hopefully you can see that. The title of my presentation this morning is Active Transportation for Healthy People and Healthy Planet, and it aligns very much with the goals and objectives of Heart Like Run. So the agenda in terms of what I want to accomplish this morning with you is to talk about the climate challenge, which has already been described in some detail, but the approach, the concept of multi-solving. And how active transportation or cycling and walking fit in with that. And then I want to talk about Bike Brampton's role. And then I want to talk about the methodology for change and how we, being Bike Brampton and Heart Like Run, and the folks on this call this morning can work together. So the climate challenge, the world has been kind of taken over by COVID over the last year. But we can't forget about the fact that the climate is still changing rapidly as we speak, and this is going to be creating more and more problems for us as we go forward. So we have to continue to focus on the climate challenge, and there's lots of similarities between the climate change aspects and the COVID-19 situation. For instance, there was a lot of talk back last spring about flattening the COVID curve by washing your hands, by doing simple things in order to be able to reduce your contact and reduce the spread. Well, the same thing is true with regards to the climate. If a whole bunch of us do a number of small, relatively easy things, then we can reduce the carbon. We can reduce our carbon footprint, and we can avoid having meeting this line of ecosystem collapse, which is really the bad thing that happens once we get above 1.5 or 2 degrees Celsius. So multi-solving the climate challenge really involves a whole bunch of different things. And that's where a lot of different aspects of our daily lives really come together in terms of helping to achieve this climate change. Land use, buildings, and transportation are some of the three major elements in our strategy. And we need to be focusing on, if we're going to hit some of these targets that both the Mayor Brown and MPP Yarde and MP Sahota were talking about earlier, we need to bring it down to something that is transitional over the next year, 2 years. And so we're looking at 7 to 8% reduction in carbon emissions every year in order to be able to meet our targets. Our cities must be able to lead the way. And in order to do that, there are a number of different individual things as well as collective things that we can do. So brings us to why bike? Well, there are very many reasons why people choose to ride a bicycle. For me, as you probably can tell by my gray hair and thinning hair, I'm getting to be of a certain age where I'm looking at both the quantity of life in terms of how long I live, but also more importantly, the quality of life. And the interesting thing about those people that ride a bike, first of all, it's something that most able-bodied people can do well into their senior years. Secondly, it increases not only the quality of life, it definitely adds years to your life, but more importantly, it adds quality to the last decade or so of your life by making that decade much more pleasant and the decline much slower. So for me, it's really important to do that. But as I say, with multi-solving means that by my riding a bike, I can solve other problems in our community as well. And so here are the things that riding a bike really addresses, and they run along economic, environment, and social situations. So sustainable transportation really helps to reduce our road costs, our healthcare costs, weather-related costs of climate change. It has tremendous environmental positive impacts as well in terms of reducing our carbon footprint and improving air quality, which is another real killer for a lot of people around the world. And then from a social standpoint, it helps with our physical and mental health. It decreases the barriers between and within communities, and it addresses a lot of the road injuries and death situations that we have on our roads. In fact, it's really interesting. People say to me, isn't cycling dangerous? Well, cycling is no more dangerous if you do it properly than any other form of transportation. And the interesting statistic is that between the ages of 1 and 19, the single biggest cause of serious injury and death is death by car, riding as a passenger in a motor vehicle. So just because we surround ourselves with tons of sheet metal doesn't mean that we are necessarily safer. We have to find better ways of getting around. Mayor Brown alluded to the health and obesity crisis that we have and the impact that that's having on our communities. Translating that into significant diseases, cardiovascular, diabetes, which is not only creating a medical and human challenge, but it's also creating a huge economic challenge for us as well because of the cost of supporting those people that are getting ill. From my standpoint and from the active transportation standpoint, physical activity is probably the single and simplest way we can do, other than what Paula was talking about in terms of eating healthy, and for sure that's important. But physical activity is as important as an intervention as taking drugs. So it by itself, it really can help to control some of these diseases. The trick is as to how do we build activity into our daily lives? And this is where cycling as for transportation really comes in, because we can tie the short range trips into just cycling or walking, but we can also tie it into being able to go on transit to get to for longer distances if we have to get downtown Toronto or other places. The other thing is that, you know, a lot of people, hopefully I'm not breaking up here. My internet says it's unstable. I'm gonna take myself off of stop my video just so that hopefully you can hear my presentation more clearly.
Yep, much better.
Yeah, so traffic congestion. I mean, I know interesting that people talk to me about or that are against bike lanes because they add to traffic congestion. And yet the interesting thing is that we can't build enough lanes of traffic to solve our congestion problem by building more lanes of highway and road construction. What we need to do is to change the mode of the way we are traveling. So getting more people out walking and cycling. And in fact, the bicycle takes up about 1/6 the amount of room as a car does. And so the more people that get out and cycle, the more room there is on the roads for others that for reasons of distance or physicality have to choose to go by the automobile. And then when it comes to the environment and climate, and this is specifically a study, an energy emission study that was done 2 years ago for the city of Brampton. Almost 60% of our carbon emissions comes from our transportation sector. And of that 60%, almost 80% of that comes from personal automobiles. So the use of personal automobiles. Well, the bicycle is the lowest carbon footprint of any transportation choice other than walking. And unfortunately, our current mode of getting around by car today is moving towards the large car SUVs. And as you can see in this chart, they have the highest carbon footprint. So we can move ourselves from the highest carbon footprint to the lowest carbon footprint by just getting out of that SUV and moving around by bicycle instead. And the other interesting thing is that people say, well, it's too far to travel by bike. And yet when we take a look at the Transportation Tomorrow surveys that have been done, the vast majority of trips that are taken in the region of Peel are 7 kilometers or less. Well, 7 kilometers is a 20-minute bike ride. And those many trips take up a huge amount of fuel and create a tremendous amount of carbon. And that's every day in the region of Peel. So unfortunately, there are some perceived barriers and some real barriers for why people don't cycle more. The first is the element of perceived safety or lack of safety, and hopefully I've addressed that at least in some respects through my earlier remarks. Many people don't have access to a working bicycle. Many people lack the skills and confidence to be able to ride safely on the road. There's also an awful lot of personal attitudes toward, so, oh, it's too cold. I mean, I've had people say to me, aren't you cold when you ride your bike? I rode out yesterday. And the fact of the matter is that there's no such thing as bad weather. There's just bad clothing. And so if we wear the appropriate clothing, we can get around and ride 365 days a year, 7 days a week. I also find that there's a lot of problems with regards to friends and attitudes towards cycling. I get asked all the time, am I crazy when I ride on the roads? And people will roll down the windows and say, get off the road. And sometimes they're not so polite about the way that they ask me to get off the road either. So there are a lot of these barriers, and we need to be able to address them because most of those barriers are actually just perceptions in our head. They're not real barriers. And yet the city of Brampton has done a lot to address the infrastructure issues in this city. They've grown, as you can see here, by putting in temporary bike lanes during COVID-19. So what does Bike Brampton do? Where do we fit into this? Well, we are an advocacy organization primarily, but we also deliver some programs. And our objective is to challenge that car-centric culture, not only in the downtown core, where there's a high density of population, but also in the suburbs. We are demanding from our politicians and our leaders transportation choices so that we can safely travel not only by car, but also by bike and by walking. And the interesting thing here is that the more the cyclists ride, the more there is cycling on a given stretch of laneway or a roadway, the safer it is for everybody on that roadway. So it's called safety in numbers. And in fact, it's a proven fact that, it increases safety for everyone, not just the cyclists, but also for the motorists and for the pedestrians. And we have developed a path that we're using to help people move along towards changing their transportation behaviors through bicycle-friendly communities, community-based social marketing, and actions and programs that will both encourage and provide education. And I'll talk a little bit about those now. So the psychology of broader social change with regards to community-based social marketing basically means that for every little action that individuals do adds up. And by using the collection of those individual actions, it becomes that gateway for changing society as a whole. So we're in the process of creating the new normal. So we've created these collective areas. Unfortunately, they had to be virtual this year, but in past years, they've been physical get-togethers called the Brampton Bike Hub, and where we offer bike repair training, we offer weekly drop-ins, we have a lending library, we team up skilled cyclists, experienced cyclists called mentors with proteges who want to learn how to ride more. We help them with route planning, we help them with skills training, and we help them with confidence building. So here's an example of some of the mentorship training that we do with our CAN bike instructor training a pedal-wise protege. Here's an example of our bike lending library where you can borrow a bike for a very small deposit, which is fully refundable. Here are some of the small group rides that we run with proteges and mentors, where we can actually see how you're riding on the roads in safe conditions, such as this in Caledon, and then move on to busier roads where the challenges might be greater. We help run cycling events, including Bike the Creek, which happens every June. Unfortunately, it did not happen as Heart Lake Run had their issues with events this year, so did we. But we normally run Bike the Creek, and last year in 2019, we had over 1,000 participants. We helped the city run the community ride program. We do guided bike rides with the Toronto Reeds Conservation Authority. When we're involved in a number of other events, including Bike to Work Day, Bike to School Week, and the pop-ups along the trails. You may have seen this along the trails this summer. Whoops. So one of the things that people say is, well, it's too far to ride by bike, and so I thought I would just put this map of Brampton, showing that with concentric circles around, describing a 12 to 15 minute bike ride, a 25 to 40 minute bike ride, and a 50 to 65 minute bike ride. And you can see that virtually you can travel anywhere in Brampton in an hour or less by bicycle. And most of the destinations that we would typically want to go to can be reached in 15 to 20 minutes. Our program has accomplished a lot. Yeah, are we running out of time?
No, we're good. Go ahead, Devin.
Okay. Our program has accomplished a lot over the last year and a half or so. When we do log our trips, and we keep track of the amount of car trips that have been displaced, and we also keep track of the amount of kilograms that have been displaced as a result. Our philosophy is that we believe in diversity and equity and inclusion. We want to create positive role models for youth, so we do a number of programs in the schools. And we do this, as I say, within an atmosphere that is both fun and social. And unfortunately, the social and fun part is a lot of that's been cut out this year, but we've been still trying to do our best. So we do require our leaders to help us get there. And I use this as an example. Everybody thinks about Copenhagen as being the Mecca for cycling in the world. And yet, if you take a look at Copenhagen in the 1960s, it was very car centric. And a couple of things came together, and I won't go through all the details of what happened here, but it really took leadership that changed Copenhagen from the way that it was in 1960s to the Copenhagen that we think of today, where there's open plazas, open streets, very much aimed towards cycling and walking. And I believe that that transition, that same transition, can happen in the city of Brampton and the rest of the region of Peel. It just takes some leadership to get us there, and I really appreciate the support that we've gotten from Mayor Brown, other council members like Rowena Santos, and are members of our federal party as well. Unfortunately, right at the moment, we don't get so much support from the Ontario legislature, but I'm sure MPP Yarde will help us with that. So we are involved in politics. We do go and meet regularly at City Hall in order to help get the word out about active transportation and the importance thereof. And in terms of working together, I mean, I think that this particular group, this organization, Heart Lake Run, can really help to normalize this activity of building active living within our culture, within our very fabric of the way that we run our daily lives, and to help to normalize cycling as a way of getting around our city. So, you know, I don't think of myself as a cyclist. I don't think of myself really as a motorist. I think of myself as wanting to get from point A to point B in the most effective way possible. And the most effective way possible, sometimes I can actually get from my house here in Heart Lake down to downtown Brampton faster than by driving, because I'm riding on infrastructure that doesn't have the same level of congestion. But even not trying to get there as the fastest way, when I travel down the Etobicoke Creek Trail, I mean, I meet others as I go. I can say hi to them. It makes me feel good. It makes them feel good. We interact in a very positive way. And so that helps us to build our community. And so we really need to normalize that. We need to, I need to get people to recognize that riding on the streets is actually not only legal, it's the only way that I can effectively get from point A to point B throughout most of the city of Brampton. And I'm not allowed, as an adult cyclist, I'm not allowed to ride on the sidewalk. So we just choose to bike for transportation, that's all. So I'll leave you with this. It's a quote from Hubert Humphrey, who was the Vice President of the United States back in the 1960s. And he said, the test we must set for ourselves is not to march alone, but to march in such a way that others will join us. And I'm hoping that Heart Lake Run and Bike Brampton are marching together now as we transform the city into a place that's healthier and more environmentally friendly. Thank you very much.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for David Laing, Chair Bike Brampton. Definitely, we look to the positive 2021 where we can all partner together and run along with you and bike along with you as well. But just amazing information, great slides. I think we've got a question for you, David, if you don't mind.
Oh, sure.
I'll read it out. It says, it's tax incentives for bike purchases and bike storage facilities in communities would be great. You need dollars and a lot of space to keep a family of 4 on bikes. What's your thoughts?
Well, first of all, we're part of we belong to an organization called Velo Canada Bikes, which is a national advocacy organization that I'm sure that MP of Sahota is familiar with. They do an annual event to try and bring more attention to cycling as part of the fabric of the country. And it's interesting that you say this, because they actually have proposed that there be some tax incentives to help with what they call micro mobility programs, which includes both the bicycle and what are called e-bikes, which are basically pedal assist bicycles, but that have an electric motor attached to them as well. and other things like electric scooters and so on. So there is a program that's been put forward by Velo Canada Bikes to try and get the federal government to support tax incentives, which will make it less expensive for those wishing to travel by bike. And the only thing that I can say is that, yes, you do need dollars and space to keep a family of 4 on bikes. But if you take a look at it in comparison to most families, unfortunately in Brampton have at least 1 or 2 cars. I see that a lot of those cars take up way more space than 4 bikes. In fact, you can fit about 12 bikes in the space that you can store one car. And in terms of expense, I can tell you from firsthand experience that even though I own a car and I do travel by car when necessary, the fact that I travel 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 kilometers a year by bike for transportation saves me an awful lot of money as opposed to the gasoline and maintenance costs associated with a car. So it's all a question of relativity. And one of the ways that we're trying to do this is to provide inexpensive bikes for people that maybe can't get access to them through the bike library. And we use volunteers and donated bikes, refurbish those bikes, and then get them back into the community. So if you really have a need for a bike and you are not in a position to be able to afford it, please send me an email, info@bikebrampton, and I'll be happy to address it for you. Thanks.
Much appreciated, David. You take care. Thanks for being here. The pleasure and honor was all ours.
Thanks.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thanks you for your time, your patience, your attention. Please welcome, and I guess the best for last, Alia Nasir, fitness expert, 7X Fitness for Women. Alia Nasir is the founder and owner of 7X Fitness for Women in Brampton. Prior to owning her dream, was a housewife for 16 years, raising her 2 beautiful children, had a 14-year career in corporate banking with the Bank of Montreal. The inspiration to own a women's own gym came from her passion for fitness that she fully embraced in her 40s. She created a safe space for women where they can support each other in building relationships while meeting health and fitness goals. Welcome, Alia.
Thank you very much, Raphael. I want to start by thanking Heart Like Run and Ephraim for inviting me to speak and share my insights of how to stay active during COVID-19. Before I start with that, I just want to give a little brief about my story. I, like you said, worked at Bank of Montreal for 14 years. And, you know, I was dressing up, working out and looking my best and feeling on top of the world. I met my husband in 1999 and we got married and had our first child in 2002, my son, which at that point I decided that I was going to stay at home and raise my child. 2.5 years later, I had my daughter, and during that entire period, I'm gaining weight, I'm eating unhealthy. I would, you know, it's easy to go make a cup of tea and I'd have cake, cookies, samosas, whatever I had, I ate. I went through a period of resentment because my husband would get up in the morning, he would shower, he would put on his suit, he'd smell great, and off to work he'd go. And I was at home with my 2 kids, putting on weight, in my pajamas probably for the entire day. And, you know, just having, just struggling every day. I, you know, obviously ended up developing some body ache, and I, you know, finally realized that it's me that needs to make that change. And so I, you know, said to my husband, I would, you know, I'd like to get back into fitness. And but I don't want to go back to a big box gym because, obviously, there's an uncomfortable level for me now because I've put on the weight and I'm not feeling confident. And so I, had a personal trainer come and train me at home. After hiring my trainer, obviously, it's one-on-one, and I've learned, like, I've always worked out, but I was learning something new. I was changing in a different way. So my first assessment that I had with my personal trainer, I could barely do anything, and I believed that it was because I was older. And I had body aches, I had brain fog. I thought, well, that's because I've been at home for 2 years and I'm just mentally tired and exhausted. I believed I had balance issues as well because in 1999, I actually had brain surgery. And after that, I never had good balance. So I just thought all of this was just my new normal, and this is how life was going to precede me. So in that time, around 2015, 2016, I started thinking about going back to work. My kids are older now, and I felt like I could get back out into the workforce, but there was something that was nagging inside of me, and it was like, well, what do I do? I really don't want to go back to the 9-to-5 job that I loved. I'm not gonna say anything about that because it was great, but I just wanted to do something different. I wanted to give back to the community, and I also had women around my age, obviously, and they're feeling the exact same thing. And I started feeling like, what if we had something different, a woman's only, and where women, because a lot of women, when you get to that point, it's hard to go to co-ed gyms, and you see the younger people and they're working out and they have different physiques, and sometimes it can be intimidating. And I thought, well, what if there was like a woman's only, and we had women come to the gym, and they had their private space, and I wanted to create this space, and there was really nothing out there for that. So 2018, I finally put it together and opened up my gym. 2019 was when I actually opened, May 2019. And so here it is in the slideshow. You can see that, we have equipment there. We have a studio space, and I'm going to speak about our core values. And our core values at 7X Fitness is agility. So what is agility? It helps with your flexibility. It helps with your posture and balance. It provides strength. It decreases body pain and simply improves personal performance. We strongly believe in connected, making connections, building relationships with other women and staff. That helps women stay committed, accountable with one another, and we're building friendships. We definitely have like a trusted environment. We provide a safe and clean space. Our staff are trusted partners to help our members reach their fitness goals through personal training and group classes. Our programs are created with the best intentions to help our members live their best life. We inspire our members to stay motivated and consistent with their level of fitness. And in return, when they're inspired, we're inspired to keep doing our best for them. Being vested, we assist our members to stay vested in their health and wellness goals through fitness and nutrition by the guidance of our knowledgeable staff and their expertise. And being energized, keeping our members energized through various programs such as group fitness classes, personal training, group training, and we have a fully equipped gym. So now I'm just going to talk a little bit about staying active during COVID. So all of these exercises that I'm going to mention can be done without equipment, so you don't need any equipment. And my personal advice to people is always to start slow and be consistent. The last thing you want to do is pull out a P90X, video and start, trying to do that when you're not even there. And 9 times out of 10, you will probably not go back to that video if you're not at that fitness level. So take it slow, take it and be consistent with it, starting with maybe 2 days and then building up to 3 days, and then anything after 3 days is bonus for you. So there are many options to stay active. Yoga is a great way to improve your strength and flexibility. It improves your health, helps with your mood, and manages stress. Hatha yoga is for beginners, and you can start by learning the basic poses and holding them, such as cat-cow, child's pose, downward dog, bridge, easy pose, chair pose, to name a few. And those you can find on Google, you can YouTube them, you can find that also on Pinterest. Those are great avenues. When you're sitting at, most people right now are working from home, and some of the, things that you could do just sitting on your chair basically is some breathing exercises, neck side bend and rotation, shoulder rolls, overhead arm reach, chair rotation, thoracic extensions. All of these can be done just sitting at your desk. And again, Google, YouTube, those are your best friends for any of that information. Another thing that you could do while watching TV, and these are important because now it's getting colder and it's getting darker. You don't want to go outside for a walk, and people, it's just it just be a little bit easier if you just do a little bit by even taking small breaks during commercial break. So these are some of the things that you can do at that time. You can do tricep dips. So you put your hands on the couch behind you and your feet planted forward, dipping down and up through a commercial break, and see how many you can do, and maybe try to, keep improving. Incline push-ups, facing the couch, put your hands on the couch in line with your shoulders, and straight back start push-ups. Box squat. Box squats. So back towards the couch, squat up and down, tapping the couch with your bum. Do as many as you can. Elevated single leg lunges. Put one foot up on the couch and one foot on the ground, taking a few steps forward and lunge, and do that alternating. You can hold a plank starting with 30 seconds, then going up to a 45-second hold to, increasing that as well. You can do some wall sits, you can do some wall sit angels, and some great ways to get some cardio in. You can do using your stairs, you can do some toe taps, you can do high knees, butt kicks, jumping jacks. You can use a jump rope to get some skipping in. So all of these things are things that you can do during COVID. Thank you very much. And I got some information up here in how you can follow us. Our Instagram address is at 7X Fitness for Women. Our Facebook, you can find us at 7X Fitness for Women. Our website and our contact information is info@7xfitnessforwomen.com. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, congratulations are in order to Alia, Nasir, fitness expert, 7X Fitness for Women. Thank you so much. Congratulations are definitely in order on your business, as well as love your personal life story. I love the photograph. I guess Muhammad Ali would be very honored to have that in his album on his wall. I don't think we have any questions. I'll just have a quick look. Nope, I think we're good. To my technical crew, I think here's a chance to once again share my gratitude and appreciation to my brilliant team. The president himself, Mr. Ephraim Wara, Faran Kiver, Mini Karanja, Vanika Gandhi, for taking care of all the technicalities behind the screens. Please remember to complete the survey at the end of the event. And on behalf of us here, we just want to thank each and every one of you for taking the time to be with us. I don't think we have any more speakers. Farhan, Minnie, anybody who's come in late who would like to join us?
Not at the moment. We're good.
We're good. All right.
We just want to remind everyone to fill in the survey form.
Lovely. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for your time, your patience, and your attention. The pleasure and honor was all ours to have you with us, all the way from the federal to provincial to municipal. His worship the mayor and our amazing panelists who shared their personal life stories, the expertise, and the experiences. And we'll keep that in mind for 2021. And when we all get together for that bike run and of course the Hut Lake run. So you take care, have a great weekend, stay safe, stay in touch.
Just to add on to that, we have an afternoon session as well that starts from 3 o'clock, and that is on Active Living and Climate Action Festival, second part of this event, starting at 3 o'clock today as well. Feel free to join that as well.
Yep, I'll just do a quick brief on that. It's Active Living and Climate Action Festival from 3 o'clock to 5 p.m. Focus areas are climate action, food security, biodiversity, environment. And we got some great speakers. So look forward to you joining us again this afternoon. Thanks again for your time, ladies and gentlemen. Talk to you soon. We're going to sign up with my technical crew right now.
Minnie, if you can pause the recording, and